Hey there, welcome to another session of Generativity with Briley. We'll be working on a sort of new track today. I've got a bit of some scenes building here, the building blocks of the track. We're calling this one Tuesday People. So my workflow essentially starts out by just kind of creating either vertical scenes that sound good together or some horizontal variations on a number of instruments that I can freely mix and arrange at a later stage. And in this track that I'm taking a ladder approach. So I might stop here around 5 elements, except I don't have anything on the audio tube, so I'll just go ahead and remove that. We might add one more element and then go into an arrangement stage a little bit later. I will gain stage along the way. Let's take a listen to what we have so far. Not bad little sketch. And it's pretty amazing the variation you can get on just some very, simple, what they call them, events, basic building blocks. Throwing together a few of them and then switching between them. In particular, this drum machine has a few layers on it, including EFX Motions by Arturia. So I'm wondering if I can just have a couple of variations of this instrument. Huh. All right, so maybe we'll have a variation with a couple of claps here. These don't have to be full length. Let's put our quantize to 1/8 notes. Just grid quantization. There's that. Got that. And then we will take those back out. Probably quarter note ride. Gonna put these back in place. Make it a little easier to read. And we might put a little bit of probability in here. Do is just give these the same probability, about 80%. These can have around 80% also. That way our loops are a little bit living. Why is this not quantizing? Really, I don't understand how the quantize works in Bitwig. This is really frustrating. I've got a grid snap enabled. It's not bad. I mean, it's not snapping though. That snaps. Okay, so there's got to be a grid there. If the grid's not visible, it won't snap. I see. That's interesting. Okay, good to know. It will snap once you get to the right resolution. So 30-second notes are pretty small. Let's go to 8th note resolution. Let's see, 16th note. Hey Fox, Creative Gaming, welcome. Yeah, that's one of the ideas, is that this might be useful for a game, but I don't have a particular game currently in mind. I'm going to publish these on Open Game Art though, so they're available. One thing that's cool about this style of composition in Bitwig and maybe Ableton, it's really good for game design, because essentially you have all these little loops and you can have immersive and reactive music that changes the mood based on the gameplay. Okay, what are you using to compose? Ableton Live, yeah, cool. familiar with this sort of paradigm than the loop-based, event-based. And my main goal right now is to use Bitwig to produce an album, musical album. But it's so flexible that I can go into the arrange mode. You know, I can record an improvised arrangement and then sort of go into more depth of sound design, modulation, mixing, mastering, that type of workflow. Publish the album, that's the first goal. And then later I'm going to try to learn how to export these and use sort of a one of those game environment softwares that integrates with like Unity, or I don't know if they have one for Godot yet. Game reactive music. Adaptive music. There's two main ones. I guess there's a couple of them. Anyway, Fox, do you have a SoundCloud or anything like that I could check out, or how do you usually distribute your music? There's a course on adaptive music engines on FutureLearn. Oh, here we are. These are the two. I found them. And Fmod. Actually, here, I'll just... All right, cool. If you want, you can share your SoundCloud. We can check it out on stream. So I'll probably try to learn about one of these, WYs or Fmod. But since I'm not working with any game projects right now, it's sort of, I'm just looking at the composition. And frankly, I'm learning Bitwig. I just got Bitwig this month after I've been using Logic for a long time, and then making some music with modular synthesis using VCV Rack. So this is a really fun program. And it got me into the whole paradigm of modular synthesis, where if you have ever worked with this, it's basically sound modules, or they're basically sound blocks that each has, you could say one purpose, but they can have multiple purposes. And there's a basic currency that flows through the system. It's just voltage. And some of the voltage changes. The voltage changes over time, and the rate of change determines sort of whether it's a something we hear or something that we sort of see, like a modulator. Low frequency oscillator is an example of a slow voltage. But there's other things, lots of modules, massive. So you're familiar with the whole paradigm. Then yeah, very cool. Yeah, this is an open source. It's a Eurorack emulator or simulator. So basically, people are publishing all of these modules. A lot of them are free and open source, and very creative and inspiring. And I sort of took a path into generative music creation using VCV Rack. Kind of you set up the system and wire everything together and put some constraints there, and it kind of takes its own life. Not takes its own life. It takes on its own life. Hopefully, it's going to play on for a little bit. And not be too depressing sounding. Basically, very inspiring. But one of the limitations, or the challenges, is if you do want to go into a more arrangement mindset, it's difficult to arrange songs and compositions with modular, it's not it's not the same paradigm. There are some basic sequencers. And you can get quite far. And there's some people who are really talented at that. But you've got, value sequencers. You even have like chord sequencers, like kind of diatonic chords, or even just chromatic. You got circle of fifths, basically. But a lot of these they're kind of primitive, and if you want to arrange a whole piece, it's just pretty taxing. And so I thought I could just get the VCV rack. The free version has all the features most people need, myself included, for many years. But then I got the studio version so that I could integrate it into Logic as a VST plugin. You have to get the Pro version in order to get these plugins. Otherwise, it's just a standalone, which is cool. And it's sort of like saves a lot of money, because these Eurorack modules, each of these can be 100 euros in real life to upwards of 500 euros. So people spend quite a lot of money. Buying synthesizers and also constructing a Eurorack can be like 3,000, 5,000, 30,000, depending on if you're calling vendors. His Eurorack setup is like nuts. He's crazy and a really talented guy. And does these modular mayhem live streams and stuff, I think, on Twitch. So he's spending probably upwards 30,000, but touring and all that good stuff. And he does really great arrangements. But anyway, I like this mindset, this modular mindset, and wanted to get it into a DAW so I could arrange. That's the long story of how I came to Bitwig finally. I'll show you why. If you haven't checked out Bitwig much. Yeah, it's crazy costly. Even, as you probably have experienced buying VSTs and stuff, some of those VSTs, like the synth plugins and things, they're as much as a DAW. There's like VST, my DAW, like a Logic was around 200, and Bitwig Studio is 400. You can get on discount though, but I just didn't wait for a discount. In any case, I'm pretty lucky to be able to have the studio version. The reason that I think the studio is important, maybe we can take a quick look into this. So it's like Ableton. It has these along the bottom. Let's make a scene here and just some chords here. Maybe just like a C major. And then, so if I go to the device mode, it's the Ableton, I don't know what Ableton calls it, but it's a device, they're devices. I think they use the same terminology here. And so that's cool, and you can drag anything on here, VSTs, there's note devices, there's effects plugins, so different types, and then you can load up the device window. This is the grid. Audio effects, okay, cool. They call them devices in Bitwig. It's got two types of devices, all samples and clips, file browser. There's some way I could show you, but yeah, audio effects is one. Click on audio, here's audio effects. If I'm in this part of the signal path, Bitwig says, okay, you're probably wanting to insert an effect in the signal chain. But if I go into note effects, open this, Bitwig's like, you want a note effect, which are a bit different. Let's do a simple instrument here. The grid. Alright, so hopefully this is not too harsh. Let's mix it down a little bit for just a moment. Sorry about that. And then, so now I've got a sound generator, basically, and I can put in the signal path a note effect. Let's move this to arpeggiate a little bit. Arpeggiator there. Alright, so now we'll come back in here into the grid, and essentially you have these building blocks. And they're categorized. So I've got a low frequency oscillator, I've got oscillator. Let's go for something more pure. So I can just drag it in here, replace that. So that sounds kind of nice already, right? There's like 150 of them. There's ones that just show you what's going on. So I can be like, hey, what's going on in my oscillator? Let's drag it up here. Boom. All right, it's an audio rate thing. So if I click there, I'll put pitch. Now I can see the pitch changing over time. I'm like, oh, cool. It's a fast one. You can see the pitches changing. So, you know, you can always check inside of your signal path at any point. Here's a nice one. The value readout. I might want to be like, okay, what note's playing here at any given time? All right, it's going to show me the value in various values. And we're going to look at either semitones, and it's playing it fast. So maybe I'll put it down to like, I just realized this, I plugged it into the wrong thing. So input, output, the pitch in is what I want to actually display the value of. I'm just going to replace this here. So now I can see that this connects to the device's incoming notes automatically. If I turn that off, it's just going to be at a set frequency, and I'll have to change the input here. But I've got some data coming in from this arpeggiator that it's going to go through these C major tones here, and it's coming in on this channel, sort of this pitch in channel into the device. So this just automatically, it's called pre-wires it to this modulator, so I don't have to it's the same thing as me doing this, basically. If I turn that off, it should work still the same. Maybe not. Huh, that's kind of surprising. All right, but anyway. Now if I click here, I can get an audio effect. So let's make this sound a little bit nicer. Oh, I see what happened. This is me learning again. I'll turn this off. It's attenuated. So it's actually not, it's getting the signal, but it's attenuated. So I have to like put this up. There we go. It's modular, and I'm just learning the grid, but I have to get back to mindset. Now, let's modulate this a bit. Like, I like this drifting sound. So let's grab a low frequency oscillator, maybe. This curves, you can draw an arbitrary curve. It's got a low frequency oscillator, and there's a clock-based LFO somehow. But let's do it off grid, and I'll just bring it into the grid in other words, off the time grid. And there's no output on this LFO, or there is actually right here. So the output could go into any of these inputs. I think the skew input, though, This is the trigger input. This is the phase modulation amount. But the skew doesn't have an input. So I can just use a modulator. Or does it? Let me just try this into the phase modulation amount and see if it... No, that's literally modulating phase, so it's moving the phase around. Doesn't sound bad. Let's detune it a bit. Some stereo detune. Just make sure I'm not missing anything. Let's use this one to see if I can get this skew here. Here we go. And let's have it off grid a bit. So just set a hertz value and it's unipolar right now, but if I want to go bipolar, it can go either way on either side of it. All right, so this one is getting reset. Every time we get a key press, it looks like it's not free running. So I think if I go over here, retrigger. Sync to global transport is off. There we go. For some reason that allows it to run free. Here we go, now we have some movement in the timbre. So I'll bring this back up and make the modulation range a bit bigger. We can soften it with like an all-pass filter. Or just a general reverb. There it is, all pass. So I can put that in the signal path after the ADSR and give it some delay. So we can have a really slow fold come in. And I'm going to put this back in the track and see how it meshes. Let's use this curves one and just so we sort of know what's going on here. I'll just take these out. Modulate the fold amount. Come into the curves, and we can see it's at a high signal rate because because it's operating at a quarter note length. Let's go back to hertz. One cycle per second is still pretty fast. If I hold shift or control. No, but anyway, command will let me set the value to like something very slow. Let's just take a look at that. So it's a slow signal. Very slow signal. Let's try 0.2. There we go, now we have some movement. Okay, but it's also very small. Bipolar. So it'll hover around 0. Somehow I've got to remember to sync it to the global transport so it can get off the ground. So now we've got this modulator that I can actually just edit the shape of arbitrarily. It's very cool. So there's like 5 or 6 VST plugins that allow you to sculpt, multi segment envelopes and control various parameters. One that comes to mind is like Shape Master. VST, something like that. No, well, that's in the audio VCB rack library. So it's the same idea. So MindMeld, ShapeMaster, and VCV library, you get an arbitrary up to 8 or up to 16 of these arbitrary envelopes. But there's one in it's like 300 euros. Yeah, I can't remember the name of it. And basically it's pre-configured to have a multi-segment envelope generator for, it's a multi-effects tool. And so it has one for like a delay, one for filter cutoff. But this modular approach, you don't have to buy a plugin that's 200 euros, and then you just have it built into the system, and you can use it to control any parameters. So here we're modulating, I think, the fold. It's bipolar, so let's make it unipolar again. It's not coming down to 0, so we'll edit this. I guess 0 is here then. Multi-segment. We'll turn that off. So now we can see our fold, our wave folder is modulating. This could modulate anything to anything. There's some really interesting sounds coming out of it. Okay, so let's go back to the sequence and see if this even fits in. Maybe it won't, probably not, but let's try it right here. First I gotta mix it. Bring it back up. I didn't do any gain staging on this track, so let's go ahead and do some preliminary gain staging. Actually does go with it pretty good. let's try a couple of other chords. For example, I mean, we can just reuse these chords from earlier. C, E, G. So this is actually the same chord, but if I invert the E down an octave, maybe make it chromatic median. So we get into some dissonance here. You just have to be careful about the combinations. Mainly this one. Everything else is diatonic. I think this is the only non-diatonic. Yeah, it does have this one. It's minor. D. Oh no, it's D major. Polymer. interesting. Pretty hypnotic. All right, I think we can go into some arrangement now. So one option is to drag and drop these over here and make an arrangement. Of a certain length. But that'll be pretty tedious, as we can see. What do I want? What length approximately? 110 BPM. Let's hear this 190 BPM for one thing. It's almost like an A-B. Well, it was already kind of coming together, so I think I'll just start recording and see what happens. Okay, I just want to pan, not to zoom it. How do you do that? And then delete this. That's probably how. No. Delete that and stop everything. And I guess we just start recording. As soon as I hit play. There we go. Something like that. Okay, so it's rough sketches, rough sketches. This part got a bit sloppy. It's at 620, so I can probably just cut out a big block of it. If I turn over now the control to the arranger, boink, we can work with that a bit. So I think up until a certain point, it came together all right. We have a gap, we rebuild it, and then go out. I'll get a rough arrangement and then do some sound design a little bit later. We're at 1 hour though, so I might take a break, eat lunch, brunch, audio effects. Excellent. Let's just take a listen. How do you mute? Just like that? No. Deactivate? No, it's device. Muted, just muted. Here we go, like an A, B. Alright, so it needs just a little bit with it. The bass probably shouldn't drop out too long. paste should continue. Maybe this can drop out for a moment. I think what I'll do is just grab all of this, bring it over now to here. Hey, what's up, Rebel? How you doing? Doing some mental arithmetic here, trying to get the sequencing the song correct. I have some 4 4 4 3 4 3. Yeah, working on an album, track for an album. Potentially some game music, but right now I'm arranging a sequence. Thanks. Hopefully relaxing, soothing. Thanks. All right, good. That's what I'm after. It helps me too. It's like really relaxing, and I find myself in a different headspace after I'm working on some music like this. Yeah, pretty good. I can't complain. Enjoying a long weekend. It's a holiday here. Okay, what's going on at work? Just a lot of responsibilities, or is there any particular like dramas or something? So I think I just have a little bit of arithmetic stuff here in the second half. I'll have to sort that out. I came in a bit early when clicking this stuff on the grid here. It's a bit tricky to hit that little square and at the right time. So naturally I'm going to make a few timing mistakes. It quantizes it too. I could perhaps change this quantization setting. So it comes in on like a measure. That would make my little arrangement work a little easier. Oh yeah, Cubase and Ableton. Yeah. I'm coming from Logic and I was in the same position. I was like, should I get Cubase or Ableton? But then I was like, wait a minute, let me look at Bitwig again. And man, it is so good. It's the Ableton paradigm, where you've got, your block-based arrangement, scene-based arrangement, I guess they call it. But you can also arrange full tracks and such. So it's familiar. And it even comes from a couple of the original Ableton developers. I guess they split off to make their own company. But what it has that Ableton, Cubase, Logic don't have. And it runs on Linux. Yes, that was probably one of the things that, even though I'm not really orienting myself around Linux as much lately, particularly with creative endeavors, I've just had too much frustration with audio and production. Trying to do video editing on Linux, it's just been, I've given up on it. But yeah, it's really nice that they support it first class. So I'd have the option. And more I just work with Bitwig core stuff, then I don't have to worry about all these VSTs that I've collected. But yeah, even just as soon as I go to Linux, I've got to figure out, am I using Jack or I can't even remember all of them. And now there's one more. Yeah, just the audio engine on Linux is there's like 4 of them. Yeah. What is the new one? Proton, not Proton. Anyway. Yeah, it is getting better, I hope, but still has this not only the audio engine proliferation, but aside from our there's so many competing projects that are attempting to make nonlinear editors or DAWs, and they're all like not even half baked. So you like compared to something like Cubase or Logic or Bitwig or Ableton, like the functionality is, or in the NLE space, what would it be? I don't know. Premiere or but I just wish that the open source community could consolidate efforts on these the nonlinear editors and the DAW in particular, because those are very complex projects. And you can't have such. And I understand it's an egalitarian and democratic system, so you can do what you want in Fork and create and start from scratch. But that works with small libraries, but not really. And it actually doesn't even work if you look at the JavaScript ecosystem. It's very scattered and reinventing itself all the time. Yeah, we have to kind of consolidate efforts on really big projects like these DAWs. But anyway, Bitwig it is. Did you check out the VCV rack? Because that's where I kind of veered for a while as well. It was like satisfying my open source niche. Yeah, that's right. Especially, Windows and even OS X now, it's becoming much more popular with tooling and DAWs and plugins. And like Logic has been really good and interesting. But I was wondering if I could get in some hybrid into my workflow, like a hybrid modular, because I've been working with VCV Rack quite a lot, and I like the mindset and the workflow of modular and the flexibility and power of it. But then when I try to arrange a composition in modular, it's not the paradigm. I might be swimming against the river there, against the current, but I think there's got to be a way, and I know people are creating arrangements and performances with these modular tools. So it's possible, but it's a bit tedious, and I wanted to get a DAW-like workflow in there where I could automate some parameters, arrange some notes. Yeah, well, same here. I'm basically brushing the surface as well of Bitwig. And what sold me on it was the Linux support. It was there. I was like, okay, that's cool. But the grid, the Bitwig grid, now I've actually done a little bit of grid in this project, so I can actually show you here. So it's like Ableton. It's got the devices. Yeah, and that's right. And I wanted a more traditional workflow a bit in terms of arranging and, sound design, mixing and mastering, all that kind of stuff. So working towards an album mindset, but maybe even then looking into game audio development, game music development, which is very modular. The types of things you make are loop oriented and composable. You can stack them and they can change. But I'm not in that path right now, or maybe I'm in early stages of that path. My mindset right now is around albums, so that's why I'm kind of doing this more long form composition. So yeah, the arranger and the scene-based composition, and then the devices grid, they call it here. The devices single path. And you got effects, audio effects, note effects, presets, instruments. The yellow ones are instruments. So it's very Ableton. But then what they add in the studio version is this grid, which is actually a modular, fully modular environment. And has various. I bought the Bitwig Studio because it's the only one that comes with the grid. And I wanted the hybrid modular workflow. I tried this with VCV Rack Pro. Rack 2 has 2 editions of it. The open source community edition, which is a standalone thing, and it was very inspiring and creative. And there's tons and tons and tons of modules. Highly recommend it. And it's multi-platform. It's just worth some experimentation. Very cool stuff. I've even managed to make a few tracks with it, mainly by live performance. So they're like one-off. I don't get to go back over and refine it. It's just a performance. I record that and I publish it. It is very cool though. But the Pro, I thought if I get the Pro, then I can bring it into a DAW like Logic. They have audio units for Logic. It took them a while to release the audio unit, so I waited. They even support Clap. Bitwig also supports Clap. Reaper supports this new. It's a fully open source audio format, so I hope it's going to be a real contender to replace VST. Apple's unfortunately all in on these audio unit stuff. I wish, with Logic you have to have. They only support audio units, or no, they support VST. What am I thinking? No, it's all audio units. I think Apple Logic doesn't support VST. Maybe I'm mistaken there. It certainly doesn't support clap. But yeah, it's you know, an investment. But then when I took it into Logic, there was just weird glitches, audio rates, modulation problems. I'm not sure the underlying issue, but it kept crashing. It was a very unstable workflow, and I wanted to have that hybrid workflow. So I was like, well, my brother had told me about Bitwig, and I was like, okay, let me look at it again. And I started watching some videos on it, and Omri Cohen was one of the main prolific VCV rack YouTubers and teachers and mentors, and he's also been doing. He's got the Bitwig Mycelium. So I thought, okay, well, if Omri Cohen's already doing this, maybe I'll check it as well. And he's the, you know, Eurorack all-star, basically. Really cool guy. Yeah, and then that was it. It's just the power of modular. And one thing I'll mention is that, sorry to keep going back with these screens, with VCV Rack, it's a free-for-all. Like, there's visual consistency if you're in a library, like the VCV core, but even there's mixtures here of libraries. Once you get off into the community modules, everything is its own, each module pack is its own kind of visual paradigm. There may or may not be inputs or modulation control for certain parameters. Labels could be missing. It's just it puts a lot of mental load on your creativity. You got to figure out each module. So if you get a core set of modules that you use a lot, you'll be pretty effective. But there's over 3,000 modules, and then over 2,000, almost 2,500 open source ones. So, you know, if you go into this, I could recommend a couple of module packs that can get you about 150 modules off the bat. But there's overlap and duplication in those. You know, how many voltage controlled amplifiers do you need? And then you might want just one plugin from another plugin pack. It's a fun, I'm not trying to harsh on it, but it's very confusing. Then contrast that with just Bitwig. It's 150 core modules built into it, categorized just like VCV Rack, but they're all visually consistent, and everything can be modulated. If there's not an input for the modulation, you can connect modulation to it. So here's a basic synth I made with a sine wave oscillator and some LFO modulating a couple of parameters, modulating the skew here with this LFO. And this LFO is a custom curve you can draw, which I was trying to find the name of it earlier. There's this a couple of these plugins that are Infiltrator is one of them. I might as well just keep this up here, and I'll just do that, and then maybe this. There we go. Infiltrator 2 by Devious Machines. It's essentially a multi-segment envelope generator that ties to a multi-effects unit. So you have like filter effects, and all of the effects are modulated by this envelope generator. It's really cool. It's also 100 euros. It's like half as much as the DAW, or more than Reaper, just for one VST. You have it's a multi-effects unit, so yeah, it's cool and powerful delays, reverb, etc., and then modulation, which brings life to the music. And so what I'm realizing with Bitwig is, here's just one example of a VST that's over 100 euros. Is built in, essentially. You have a multi-segment envelope generator with like arbitrary, you can draw arbitrary envelopes here, and then use that to modulate anything, not only on the grid but off the grid. There's an equivalent, so you can put any kind of effect and or any instrument, and every device here has a modulation grid here, and you can add multiple types. And I'm just getting used to it, but multiple types of modulators, and there's a one freeform, maybe it's curves, freely drawable LFO. Yeah, there we go. So here we go. I have, for example, if I wanted to modulate something on my grid instrument, one of these knobs, then I can put this curves there, and this is the same. It's the exact same plugin. It's just you draw your curve or pick from a preset. There you go, and then hit that, and then now you have a modulation source that you can map to, like the pitch. Let's do a little bit of pitch modulation and hear how this sounds. So you can hear us now kind of pitch wobble. If I go back here to the instrument polygrid and just start up, make sure everything is stopped, hand over control to the, yep, we got control back here, and let's just say this. Yeah, maybe it's not a good idea to pitch modulate it. Or at least not at that rate. Let's see if I slow down the hertz. Aliens, that's true. Yeah, and if I don't like it, I can just take it off, but take it back off there. Yeah, thanks. This is just coming from the polygrid, and it's essentially a sine wave that I'm modulating the skew and the fold, so it's getting wave folded, and the phase, so it's shifting in phase. I can take this phase modulation off, and it chills, it settles down a little bit. In fact, I kind of like it better without that. It's got a little bit of delay on there, over here. Yeah, thanks. It's so chill. I hope is it stereo on the live stream, because it makes a difference. Slowly phasing around my head. Very cool. All right, so I'll make an arrangement that does it justice. This sounds good all together stacked, and when I'm switching between the scenes, but playing that as an arrangement was a bit tricky, and I made a couple mistakes, so I'll have to work through over here the timing of a couple of these things, and to make around 5 or 6 minute track for this album I'm working on. And I release these tracks kind of as on a rolling basis. But now I'm switching over to Bitwig, so I've got to figure out basically my whole workflow again. Maybe a lot of it's not changing since I'm starting with roughing around, rough arrangement here, and then more refining the arrangement here, and sound design, and then mixing and mastering with gain staging along the way. So I have to figure out the mastering segment of that workflow, but I've sort of got my gain staging and using, if I show the devices panel, they've got this multi-tool here that you can use to gain stage, so you can leave your mastering faders at like unity. But I just did some quick gain staging with those. I'm going to reset those and see if I can double click. that earlier. And get on one that's got everything playing. Dan TJ, okay. Yeah, I haven't heard of Dan TJ. 97, I think I was using Audio Mulch. It's still around. Let me double check this one. Audio Mulch. It was my first foray into like the modular mindset. See if they have some pictures of it. Dan TJ. EJ Shop. Still around there. Same website. All right, so you just put kind of samples in there. It's like a kick, boom, boom, ta, boom, ta, boom, ta. And it comes with a bunch of dance sounds, so that's cool. Out of the box, you're ready to make some music. And 5 instruments. It's got some video stuff going on. That's cool. Yeah, it's good. Sounds good. It's like getting you started. Like I think GarageBand is sort of modern equivalent to that. That's only 20 euros though. That's cool. And it's like, you get a bunch of sounds and a bunch of instruments and you can just make something. You don't have to worry about like sound design or going and downloading a bunch of big sample collections and all that stuff. It's just giving you a tool. Bitwig to a certain extent is this as well, because once you get the license, they have a bunch of ready-made packs. And I think this is kind of a common trend with more fully fledged DAWs like Cubase, Studio 6, Studio 1, or 6, Studio 1 versions. Anyway, that they come with like instruments. Cubase comes with a ton of them, depending on your package. Reaper doesn't. That was one of my frustrations with Reaper. I do have a Reaper license, but it just doesn't come with anything. It's so anemic, and the workflow is just not really inspiring. So I couldn't quite do anything with it aside from the Ninjam. I bought it just because they had really good. They were really friendly during COVID and gave everyone like licenses when on lockdown for free. And this Ninjam plugin's pretty fun for online jamming. But after that, I couldn't really get inspired to use it in any production. Logic comes with a lot of things that are very inspiring out of the box. Like, I think it almost has like 100 or so gigabytes of content. Yeah, this is very cool. Well, I'm sort of at a break. My blood sugar is dropping, so I probably need to eat something. Yeah, that's the problem with Logic. Yeah, and one of the reasons I'm kind of moving away from it. I don't want it to be totally wed to the Apple ecosystem. And then not only that it's locked to Apple, but then they have their own plugin format. So they're like, it's like Pro Tools having its own AAX plugin format, I guess. There's probably reasons for it, but I think mostly it's about control. And I think, we need common standards like clap to emerge. But yeah, hence Bitwig, and I'm trying to make use of the plugins I have invested in, particularly the instruments like Arturia stuff and UVI. And I have some a lot of contact instruments, but I'm trying to really simplify down to what I can get away with just in Bitwig. Maybe I'll do a whole album just of only Bitwig devices, and maybe some of these packages. That will just totally give me the option. Whatever operating system I want. I already basically have that between Windows and Mac if I include like the Arturia stuff and the UVI stuff. But if I want to hop back over to Linux, I can get away with it with just Bitwig. Yeah, cross-platform support's a big deal. I think Clap plugins might be offering that as well. Linux native support. Yeah, I don't have much more I can do on this track at the moment. I got to give my ears a little bit of a rest. Fruity Loops. That's right. That was one of the first ones I was actually looking back in the 90s because I liked the quantization for audio recordings and was like recording my guitar, but I have really bad rhythm, really bad sense of time. So I can't really play to a metronome. It's something about my brain doesn't work very well with that. Fast forward to now, looking at Bitwig, it actually has the same level of quantization as Fruity Loops. Fruity Loops, I guess, comes with a lot of instruments, doesn't it? And loops and stuff. Fruity Loops. Yeah, FL Studio, yeah, let's call it FL Studio now. Because, one of my favorite musicians, the Flashbulb, Ben Jordan, he uses Fruity Loops. Reject all. Can I just have one button for that instead of 2 clicks? I like that they have sort of cross-platform support, and even mobile support. This is a cool thing. I think Bitwig is targeting touch platforms as well. One of the strong things about Fruity Loops is that you buy the license once and you own it for life, basically. Mac and Windows. And, they might be moving, as far as I understand at least, the FL Cloud's coming around. That might be needing some sort of subscription model. They have multi-editions, though, and so it comes out of the box, depending on your edition, with some stuff to work with. So, yeah, I agree I think that's really important, especially when you're just starting out with music. You might not have a sound design background or have a big sample collection. So if you can, or effects collection, having just stuff to do with is just important. Audio recording, that was one of the important deals, I think, with the audio quantization that I was really interested in. Back in the 90s, I didn't go the Fruity Loops route. I didn't, in fact, end up doing much with my musical interests. But I did some audio mulch, and I made one little EP that's been lost to time, I think. But I never settled on a DAW. I think I looked at, I was working with a cracked version of, anyway, I shouldn't confess. No, it's anyway, that's what you did back then. I think you cracked software. Can't remember what I was working with. Yeah, so you get lifetime free updates. Yeah, right. And some guy gave me a DVD with a bunch of sound samples that I never did anything with. So this is interesting. An interesting business model. That's what I liked about Logic too. You buy it once and then you have it. But that can be a bit problematic as well, because even after working with Bitwig for just a couple of weeks now, really I just brand new to it, the quality of most of the things, there's been a couple small details, none really come to mind. It's not perfect, but the quality and stability are surprising. And even when I hop back over into Logic, I'm like getting some crashes and just surprised at like the lack of polish. Some of the features, even just core things like dealing with automation curves, the workflow is a bit cumbersome. Yeah, just the quality of Bitwig is on like another level of Logic, and I didn't think that was really possible. I thought Logic was kind of a top tier. And I think part of it is the incentive. What is the incentive to continue development? It's not a subscription model. They're not getting recurring revenue. It's Apple's incentive, I think, is mostly about keeping people in the Apple ecosystem. And so that means they have to release, big ticket features, but not necessarily go back over some of the technical debt and the subtleties of the features, the nuances that you need in a streamlined workflow. I think Bitwig has the right incentives. It's a bit of a higher cost model. You have to pay around 100 euros every year or two. And that's why it took me so long to even consider Bitwig. So these FL Studio kind of things, they're expensive and you don't want to necessarily do that. So lifetime free updates is a big deal. But you want your software to sort of be mature and polished. And I haven't really worked with FL Studio. I can't say much about it. But anyway, Ben Jordan uses it and he makes some pretty amazing music. So I think it's pretty powerful and been around for a long time. Was it Cakewalk now? Now owned by BandLab. This is a fun little company, this BandLab, for online collaboration. Yeah, that's true. The workflow matters. Yeah. So yeah, I'm not trying to yuck anyone's yum, and by any means, hopefully, I'm not coming across as like what would be called too critical. But for me, the modular workflow and having the ability to arrange tracks and automation and modulation are really important to the types of music I like to make, where things just change and move over time. And I could get a lot of the modulation with the pure modular and the Eurorack, but the hybrid approach, it was very important in my workflow, the decision to sort of go into Bitwig land. Now I've got a microphone here. I'm going to experiment. Back to the Fruit Loops thing and my poor timing. Bitwig has really powerful audio quantization features I haven't even tapped into. The first time I accidentally encountered it was dragging and dropping some voice recordings, and they sounded all time stretched. And I was like, wait, what's going on? And it's because it's quantizing the transients to the grid, and you can disable it very easily once you know how. You have to look in the right place, and there's a button you click. I don't know if I'll be able to even demo that, but I just know so very little about Bitwig right now. I'm not even sure where to go. Samples and clips. If I just create like if I go back to the arrange mode and just put in something, a bass line. Oh wait, actually I need one of these. But, oh gosh. So here's an example, 120 BPM. And my project's 90 BPM. So if I drag this over and I just pop it here, and I don't know if this will sound good, but I'll just put mine. Right, audio quantization. Not bad. And if I go to the edit mode, you can see these quantization points. Now they might have annotations. Apple loops are annotated in some way, but I think Bitwig, it just works with arbitrary loops. You don't have any Apple specific proprietary things. Then you can edit these and change automation. Let's see, panning. Let me just try this real quick. And this all lives at the clip level. All right, I grab that and then semitone. A couple of semitones here. Maybe it'll make more pronounced. Stuff like that. Built in, so it's got stretching and comping workflow. I haven't even done anything with audio yet, so I'll probably try that on a future track with some guitar recordings. I need to go storing an XLR cable. Here's an example. Holding down Alt allows me to bend the curves. On Apple, I would need to, on Logic, I would need to like set up my alternative clicking, whereas this is just so common that they just like, yep, you're gonna do it. This keyboard shortcut. So the workflow details in Bitwig definitely kind of click with me, and I'm fresh enough to the whole thing that I don't have too many built-in assumptions, so I'm able to kind of just adapt to the Bitwig way. Let's see here. But out of Cubase and Ableton, what do you use more to compose? By the way, and I forgot to check out on stream this earlier, I will subscribe to Fox Creative. Interesting, looking for a flight. I'll follow them. There we go. Yeah, sure. What do you prefer, though? What kind of workflow are you mainly doing with your music? And do you have like I don't know if I've ever asked this, do you have like a SoundCloud or anything? Yeah, so Fox Creative came on today, and they're mainly working on some game music. I can kind of see this. from their submissions on SoundCloud. Interesting. Nice. Piano and orchestral. Ah, yeah. Nice up-tempo rhythms and stuff. Yeah. So do you think double down on one of those DAWs, or are you gonna consider a foray in Bitwig? Try the Bitwig trial at the very least. It does have offers every once in a while, but I researched on like how often and what types of sales that Bitwig has, and it's usually an upgrade sale from like one of the lower versions. They do have a competitive cross grade though, and that comes around usually in summer. Since you already own one of these, you own 2 DAWs. There's a Sweetwater crossgrade right now. It'll save about €100 off the Studio. I highly recommend Bitwig Studio though if you're interested at all in modular. The grid is so cool. There's some grid instruments that you would get in a lower tier edition. So you'll have it in that because Bitwig is all one software, but it's feature gated or whatever. But I did research every once in a while, they'll have an offer for the crossgrade. This is cool. I'd like to sort of get into this theme stuff. Now my son and I are doing some music and we create a little bit of a thematic stuff. I can show you another quick preview, so I'll just delete this from the arrangement. I don't think I'm going to continue with that. But now there's an audio track here, so because it lets me put in loops and stuff. 400. That's true. It's on par with the others, maybe a little cheaper than about €200 cheaper, I think, than Cubase. It comes with a lot, and now they have this content marketplace built in with packages. They're not releasing quite as often as you would see from a company like Arturia or something, but there is a lot to work with right here, including some orchestral sounds, which was about 1 gig, maybe it was a one. Let's see, what orchestral. Grand piano, 1.5 gig. That's a pretty essential instrument. They did collaborate with Orchestral Tools to get some basic orchestral sounds to work with. I'm not reading this very carefully, so I'm overlooking it. Oh, right here, orchestral, 4 gigs for the brass. I think there's a couple of woodwinds and strings as well. So you get some high quality samples included with the, here's the woodwinds. Orchestral Tools does pretty good stuff. I have a few of their libraries as well. I can show you one other track. I had one with, so I've got Tuesday People saved. I will load, I think this one I was working on yesterday. Well, here's one I made in Berlin. I just went on a work trip there. I was inspired by like the techno idea. And just seeing what I could do, and in my hotel they had on a napkin a creative. It was this music-oriented hotel called In-House, pretty cool place. And they were like, "Hey," on the napkin it said, "Feeling inspired? Make a singing frog." I was like, "Okay, what is that even?" So I just thought I would try that. So let me see. I don't remember what I have here. Let me go to the arrange mode. Boink, and essentially I've got the rough cut arrangement, but it's like, let's see over here. It's not too techno-y, but it's a bit bouncy. it's generative every time through. Should be a little bit different. Gotta work on the arrangement for this one a lot more. Yeah, not bad. Just a little hotel sketch. But if you're interested in generative and continually varying music, Bitwig has the killer features in that one. For example, this drum beat. If I go to the edit mode, each drum element can be assigned a probability, and they just roll dice. If I click this, hit here, it's at a 5. If it rolls 4 or less now, it's rolling 4 or less almost every time, it looks like. There it goes, missed it. Let's try it a little bit low. So you get kind of variations. That way your loops aren't so quite predictable. And the way you define the randomness is pretty intuitive. You gotta you can set the specific percentage, like 70, or they're using this dice metaphor. Let's see if there's some modulation that I applied here. Well, yeah, so every instrument has a modulation slot. Every device, not just instruments. And you can just show or hide the modulation by toggling this little thing. And then there's a bunch of modulators, probably around 20 or 30. Traditional envelope generators, multi-segment envelope, low frequency oscillators that can be time synced, mathematical ones, random generators, and essentially it's just a dice, and then you can smooth it. It's like a sample and hold or smoothing, and you can set the frequency. Should be generating the values here. What's trigger on every new node. Yeah, it's just really powerful. So the modulation is really good. I'll save it. And then there's one I was making yesterday that's pretty much ready to go into probably mastering at this point. And I think in this one I'm highlighting it because these are the orchestral strings that come with Bitwig. So you can get an idea. They're included here in the packages. Orchestral strings, 2.5 gigs. These pizzicato. These strings are 2 layers. You got sustains and pizzicato. I'm only playing 1 note at a time here on the arranger, and I'm stacking intervals on top of it. Then arpeggiating those intervals using up and down motion, and then adding a little bit of delay to the notes. Transposing, and I can modulate this transposition actually. Something random. There we go, now we're getting a random value. And I'll modulate this, which now the pizzicato strings are not on stage, they're just silent here. They'll come back in a moment. But I have this nice signal path, so it's arpeggiating and then repeating some of the notes and humanizing, so the chance comes here. So it's not a smooth arpeggiation, it's actually has some probability and timing and velocity modulation built in. Let's see if it gets some octave. Yeah, this one's pretty much ready for mastering. I don't know, maybe I don't want to overdo it. A little bit more mixing. But every time this piece plays, it's different. That's generativity. Thanks. Yeah, and it's a really great tool. It's just unlocking a lot of my creativity and inspiration. It's intuitive. The interface is just elegant. I would just almost say beautiful. I haven't had such like an aesthetic response to any of these DAWs. But that's also, all of it's subjective, of course, like you're saying. It's what floats what clicks with you, what fits your workflow, and Bitwig kind of checks off all the boxes for me. You can random seed it. You can control the seed, so it'll play randomly, but it'll be deterministic. So every time it'll play through, it'll be the same. Or I could disable I could say here a different random seed, or just let it seed differently. So every time I play it, it's different. So it's a choice. I've also got swing or shuffle enabled here, and you can enable on a per element basis. You can enable it globally. Then all the things that are swung will kind of drift. It's so good software. Okay. Well, it's about 2 hours, and I need to take a little break. But I might run to the music shop and grab that XLR cable. Yeah, I'll probably, what is today, Saturday? Yeah, I'll probably be streaming a bit more, maybe later in the afternoon or tomorrow. But it was good to see you, Rebel. Nice hanging out. And let me know, send me a DM if you get any tracks or inspiration. We can go back and forth and show me your SoundCloud or something like that. And I'll follow you on SoundCloud or whatever it is you like to share, wherever you share your music. Thanks. All right, this has been another session of Generativity with Briley. I'm sort of reorienting this stream now to focus just on generative activities, and music creation is one of the most expressive ways I've found to explore the idea. Okay, good, yeah, and enjoy your few days. Hopefully take some time to relax. Music certainly is a relaxing activity for me. Well, have a great day. I hope you're doing well. I'll see you around. Sure, my pleasure. See ya.